Hey guys, it's Sandro here, and today's video is a look at how to go about deep cleaning or decontaminating car paint and adapting that process to suit each particular vehicle and its level of contamination. Now for those of you who may be newer to car detailing, let's quickly go through the what's, whys and hows of paint decontamination. So what is it? Paint decontamination is a process that removes embedded grime or bonded matter from a car's paint and trims that won't typically come off during a basic maintenance wash. This contamination can include things like environmental fallout, mineral buildup, tar deposits, adhesives, tree sap, pollen residue, and even any older existing waxes or sealants. The goal is to strip the paint and trims back to a clean bare state. So then, why do we do it? There's really two main benefits. Firstly, it's important to understand that contamination like environmental fallout, water spots, bird poo, bug splatters, and so forth don't just make car paint and trims look unappealing. They also continue to eat or etch their way into the surface, causing more damage the longer they're allowed to remain there. So decontamination is a vital process in keeping your car's paint and trims healthy and avoiding clear coat failure. Secondly is surface preparation, meaning that if we don't remove all that contamination before paint correction, it tends to negatively affect the polishing stage, making it far more difficult to achieve a great result. And similarly, if we don't remove it, it tends to cause bonding issues and break down our car waxes, sealants and coatings at a more rapid rate if it's still present during the protection stage. So then, how do we go about it? Basically, we use certain chemicals, tools and processes to gradually strip the existing contamination off. And that's where this video comes in, where I'll try to explain that on some new or lightly contaminated vehicles, there's not all that much you need to do, while on more typical or heavily contaminated cars, you'll need to go a little further. I'm recording.
2 seconds.
Now, I'll display the products I'm specifically using, but I'll also try to explain them as grades or categories, so you don't need to use exactly what I'm using, but just understand the type of chemistry or product you're looking for, so you can then go off and source whatever's available to you. So let's start with the basic or light decontamination process on this first blue panel. Why? Because the paint is fairly new and there's very little visual contamination or defects. So this could be a great way to decontaminate a new car, a recently repainted car, or just a vehicle that's well maintained, garaged and doesn't do many miles. So for this panel, I'm using 3 products in total, starting with a touchless application of a strip car wash detergent. So this category of product will be an alkaline leaning or higher pH snow foam or car wash detergent that's basically going to do a better job at degreasing, softening and loosening grime compared to a more standard pH balanced car wash soap. Be sure to allow it to dwell for as long as possible, which is usually around 5 to 10 minutes or just before it starts to dry, which ensures you get its maximum performance. I'll be methodical during the pressure rinse, meaning keeping the beam no more than a foot away from the surface and making sure it runs over every inch of the paint. With this first touchless pre-treatment complete, which removes the looser dirt, ensuring I don't scratch up the paint in the next hand wash stage, you can then use the very same alkaline leaning detergent to now physically clean the paint. I'm using a stranded microfiber wash mitt, which I personally find is the most gentle yet effective material, and going over each section twice to maximize cleaning performance and using a safe car washing method. Now, after a second pressure rinse, there's very little contamination remaining on the paint, meaning it's almost completely clean. However, I can still feel a little slickness and I can see a little hydrophobic behavior, meaning there's still the remains of some sort of wax or sealant residue I need to further break down. So this is where I'm going to use a slightly stronger chemical. The one I'm using is a multi-purpose decontamination chemical that can treat most contaminations such as iron, road films, light mineral deposits, and even adhesive residue that may be present on some newer vehicles. But the added bonus is that I can also use it as a clay lubricant if need be. And importantly here, it does do a great job at stripping off older waxes and sealants. I'll spray it on the panel as well as on a microfiber cloth, give it a minute or two to dwell, and then physically wipe it in, going over the surface thoroughly. Now the thing to understand is that on new or near new paint like this, it naturally has some mild hydrophobic behavior. So on new cars, you shouldn't look for a completely flat water pooling, but rather something like this where it moderately sheets the water, and also importantly, the paint is smooth but a touch tacky, which means it's clean and bare. The last step after drying should always be an IPA or isopropyl alcohol wipe down. So this chemical will typically be about 15% cleaning alcohol to deionized water, which you can also make up yourself. There's always going to be a little chemical residue, water spots, streaks, and even some kickback dirt and dust after a deep, thorough decontamination process. So an IPA panel wipe is one of the only products that cleans without leaving its own interfering residue behind. It also actually dries any remaining water as you wipe it. It allows masking tape to bond and stick better, and ultimately gives you that final, completely clean and bare finish, ready for paint correction or protection.
Maybe just a final walk around.
So let's go through this process again, keeping the same core products and methods, but just expanding on them to deal with a more contaminated paint or vehicle. So on this second black panel, which obviously has more dirt, grime and contamination present, we'll need to do a little more work to get it fully decontaminated. In this instance, I'm going to start with an even stronger alkaline leaning pre-treatment, which you can categorize as an all-purpose cleaner or degreaser of sorts. This chemical will be just a little more aggressive and effective at softening and dissolving the present dirt and grime in our first touchless step. After I allow it to dwell for as long as possible, or again, just before it starts to dry out, I'll then snow foam directly over it and give both the chemical and the detergent another 5 to 10 minutes to continue working. I'll also add that the snow foam I'm using here is in the same alkaline category as the previous snow foam, it's just a different brand. I'll then perform a very thorough pressure rinse down, and you can also note that on this more neglected panel, there's almost no positive hydrophobic behavior, meaning that here I'm really not going to have to worry about stripping off any existing waxes or sealants. I'll then perform my hand wash, but this time I'm going to switch to a low pH or acidic car wash detergent. The reason for this is that although high pH or alkaline leaning detergents and chemicals are better at degreasing surfaces and removing road films and embedded dirt, low pH or acidic chemicals are better at dealing with things like water spots, mineral deposits, as well as iron or environmental fallout, and even light surface rust. So the combination of starting with an alkaline detergent to firstly degrease and remove road films, then allows the following acidic detergent to perform far better at tackling a broader spectrum of contamination. I'll also add that I really could have used the same combination here for the previous panel, but being that it was so lightly contaminated, there really wasn't the same need.
Right.
For the next step, I'm going to use the very same general decontamination chemical I used on the previous panel, but being that this panel has an obviously higher level of environmental fallout, I'm going to use it here as not only my chemical decontamination product, but also as my clay lubricant to mechanically remove the fallout and other embedded grime. I'm using a synthetic clay cloth with just light pressure, short strokes, and the benefit here is that I'm both chemically dissolving and physically plucking off the fallout in a single step. The way to assess your results is that the paint should feel smooth but slightly grippy, and you should no longer hear that scratchy sound when you run your gloves over it. I should also add that you can certainly use a traditional clay bar for this step, but you shouldn't use it with these types of decontamination clay lubricants, as they will tend to break down traditional clay bars. You should only use synthetic clay blocks or towels with these chemicals. After drying, the same IPA panel wipe should be used as the final step, and once again, now the paint is ready for paint correction or protection steps.
No, I'm not now though. That's
So let's finish up by looking at this last white test panel and discussing even more specific decontamination chemicals you can use to treat more specific types of contamination. Now, you'll still start the same way with your alkaline pre-treatments and pressure rinse, but you can then introduce some new steps. Now, I don't have all the footage here to show you each specific chemical, but all these chemicals can pretty much be applied in the same way, which I'll try to explain. So let's say you live in a congested city area, maybe an industrial area, or perhaps close to an airport or train station. In those scenarios, you're most likely going to have high levels of environmental fallout. meaning using a specific iron remover may be a good step to add. Or perhaps you live somewhere that has very hard or high mineral content water, or you live near the beach, in which case using a highly acidic mineral spot or water spot remover may be a good added step. Or lastly, perhaps you've been driving on some newly built roads or you track your car, in which case a dedicated tar remover application may be a great added step. In any case, the application of those three different iron, water spot and tar removal chemicals is pretty much identical. Now, you can use them as I'm demonstrating here with the iron remover in a touchless application. Just spray them on, allow them to dwell and dissolve the particles, and then rinse them off. But in my experience, you'll actually get better results and an increased contamination removal level if you apply them after your hand wash stage. Spray them on like I did on the first test panel, and then wipe them in thoroughly before rinsing them off. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're using an iron, tar or water spot remover, the process is identical. The only thing I'd add is that it's rare to have a lot of tar deposits on the top half of a vehicle, just like it's a little more rare to have lots of water spots on the lower half. So you don't need to treat the entire vehicle with each chemical, just the areas that are more affected. So I just wanted to explain that although in most cases, I've actually found that a general decontamination chemical actually works amazingly well, there are some cases in which you may have some extremely high levels of iron, tar or mineral deposits where using more dedicated chemicals may be the best course of action. In the end guys, a decontamination process always has the same goal, to get the paint and trims as clean and bare as possible. And the way we know we've achieved that is with pooling water behavior, a visually clean surface, and a smooth, uniform finish to the touch with a little grip to it. The only caveat is that some vehicles won't need much to get there, whereas others will need more work, products, and steps to get to the same place. Give instructions to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase his learning. True wisdom is the gift of God. I pray you all draw closer to Him. May God bless each and every one of you. Stay strong, stay faithful, and I'll see you next time.